Have you been hovering just below or maybe well below the six-figure mark in your business, wondering what it really takes to break through? Well, if you're anything like I was back in 2011, you might be throwing everything at the wall. Multiple offers, working nonstop, a persistent feeling that there must be an easier way. Well, what if I told you that the path to your first six-figure year doesn't require more offers, more hustle, or more complexity? In today's episode, I'm sharing the exact 7 steps I would take if I were starting fresh today and wanted to hit those consistent 10K months by next year, without the burnout, without the overwhelm, and without the detours that marked my own journey. This is the blueprint I wish someone had handed me over a decade ago. It's the wisdom distilled from both my own path and from guiding hundreds of spiritual women business owners to create businesses that are both profitable and aligned with their true self. So stay with me to discover how simplifying your offers, aligning your inner landscape, and getting the right support can transform your business in ways that pushing harder never could. Welcome to Herself, a space for women to have deep conversations about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential, so you can become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. After being in business for over 2 decades, I've learned, as you likely have too, that as you grow your business grows you in unexpected, often challenging, yet miraculous ways. Here, we'll talk about how to get out of your own way so you can grow a business that's abundant and sustainable while allowing you to be a force for good in the world. I'll give you simple, actionable strategies, as well as wisdom and inspiration to help you root into your wholeness, lead from your values, and work in ways that feel deeply aligned, so you can bring your true self into the world through your business and in every area of your life. I vividly remember 2012. It was the year that I was completely obsessed with hitting 6 figures in my business. And at that time, my business was called The Way of the Happy Woman. And my first book had the same name, and it had just come out the previous year in 2011. So to be clear, I had wanted to hit six figures before 2012. But when 2012 came around, I just was really resolved to say, this is the year. I'm going to do it this year. And at that time, I had a lot of irons in the fire. I had a lot of offerings. I'd been hovering around 50K or 60K annually, and crossing that 6-figure threshold felt like this, it felt like kind of this magical milestone that would somehow elevate me to the next level. I looked around me, and some of my colleagues whom I was friends with were doing it. And to be honest, I have a little bit of a competitive fire in me. And every business book I read, every mentor I followed, they all seemed to hold up that 6-figure mark as the moment that you'd made it. And I wanted it badly. So when I finally did break through that income ceiling in 2012, I was ecstatic. And over time, I have learned some powerful lessons about what actually moves the needle and what just creates more stress without real world results. And today, I look back on that journey of my past self with a lot of compassion and with a great deal more clarity. And I see both what served me and what I wish someone had told me I could do differently. So today, I want to pull back the curtain and walk you through exactly what I would do now, step by step, if I were starting fresh and wanted to create my first 10K months and 6-figure year. Now, this isn't just theory. This is what truly works. Without the detours, without all the stressy moments, including, yes, meltdowns that marked my own path. This is your roadmap if you are ready to grow with more grace, with more kind of calculated strategy, and to learn from my experiences so that your path can hopefully be more easeful than mine was. And to be clear, this will not be easy. And anyone who tells you it can be easy is lying. But with the right information, it can be more easeful. But it still will be hard. It still will grow you. And, when women start working with me, what they desire most isn't fame, isn't followers, isn't a flashy brand. It's actually breaking through to their first six-figure year, but not at the cost of their sanity, their freedom, or their femininity. So when you reach this level, you know that you have enough of a foundation in place that you can build upon, that your ideas have been validated, that you have somewhat of the right message and audience and offer fit, and that you can grow from there. And, growing beyond that initial 100K a year is another story for another time. But today, I want to guide you through the essential elements of creating your first six-figure year without sacrificing your wholeness. So let's start with the first and most essential step. And this is up-leveling your mindset. Now, here's something I wish someone had told me back in 2012. To grow your business, you need to grow yourself first. This isn't just some inspirational quote for your vision board. It's the absolute foundation of sustainable thriving. And when I was pushing to that six-figure milestone, I thought I was self-aware. I was in many ways, and self-awareness is always evolving. And I was so focused on external strategies, the marketing plan, the launch calendars, the conversion rates. I was learning all those things for the first time. And it was a lot. Like I said, it was hard work. And I wasn't paying enough attention. I didn't have enough of the tools to really focus on what was happening inside of me. I had those tools that I used in my personal life or my spiritual practice, but I wasn't translating those to my business. And let me tell you, there was a lot happening inside. So parts of me were terrified of increased visibility. Parts of me were afraid that I'd actually succeed. And if I did, that I wouldn't be able to sustain it. Parts of me worried what people would think if I started making too much money. And other parts of me were just completely overwhelmed because I was spinning just one or maybe even more than one too many plates in the air. So here's the thing. No business strategy in the world will work if you have unaddressed fears, limiting beliefs that are substantially blocking you, or parts of you actively working against your conscious goals. And this is where your inner world and spending time there becomes non-negotiable. So here's what I recommend instead of pushing through, which was my approach. And trust me, it led to those meltdowns that I mentioned earlier. First, work with the parts of you that feel stuck in fear, in overwhelm, and confusion. And my favorite way to do that is by using internal family systems. And many of the episodes in this podcast guide you in ways to do that. And that helps you to heal these parts simply by starting out by acknowledging them, just to see what parts of you are hesitant about growing your business. What are they afraid might happen if you do that? And these parts are not sabotaging you. They're not trying to sabotage you. They're trying to protect you in the only ways that they know. So next, when you feel that resistance or you feel that overwhelm rising up inside of you, take a step back. Even just for a moment, take a deeper breath. Let's take a deep breath together right now. And from there, you can ask, what is my next right step? Not the 10 steps ahead, just the very next one. And this simple practice helps you move forward without necessarily triggering those protective parts into full-on alarm mode. And third, and this is something that I practice regularly now and wish I had learned it sooner, is to dedicate time each day to connect with your highest self. And one of my favorite ways to do this is to journal with my highest self, just to ask a question in my journal and to have my highest self respond. And finally, cultivate a deep, even unshakable belief that you are worthy of rising to the next level, because you are. This is not about ego. It's about recognizing that your gifts are needed in this world and that you deserve to be abundantly compensated for the transformation that you provide. So when I work with women in my signature program, Herself CEO, this inner work is where we always begin, because without it, all the strategy in the world just falls flat. We cannot build a six-figure business on a foundation of self-doubt and fear and inner conflict. So step 2 is to simplify your offer suite. And remember when I mentioned having all those irons in the fire back in 2012? Well, that's putting it mildly. I had retreats. I was teaching some in-person yoga classes. I had various online courses, private mentoring packages. I believe I had a membership program. You name it, I was probably offering it. And while this variety seemed smart at the time, with the thinking that more offers means more revenue opportunities, it actually created a lot of inefficiency and diluted my focus. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is focus on 1, max 2 signature offers that solve a very clear problem for your ideal client and provides a valuable transformation that they're wanting in their lives, and that showcases your unique expertise and differentiates you from other people in your field. And I know this might sound counterintuitive, especially if you're thinking, what, I have so many things I'm interested in, so many gifts to share. What if people want different things from me? But the truth is, when you have multiple offers or too many offers, you are splitting your energy and your marketing energy and your delivery systems and ultimately your results. So what does this one signature offer look like? It could be an online course. It could be a membership program. A lot of times I recommend just starting out with a one-on-one package. And the format isn't as important as the clarity and potency of what you're offering and really making that one thing the best that you possibly can. So for example, in my business now, Herself CEO is my signature container. And everything else that I create, this podcast and my newsletter, my social media content, it all flows toward this primary offering. And this focus allows me to pour all my creative energy, my marketing resources, my delivery excellence into making this one thing as exceptional as I can. So this simplifies your marketing, because when you have one core thing, you can get crystal clear on your messaging. And you're not constantly switching between different audiences or different ways that you're expressing the value of what you're offering. It also streamlines your sales process, and you become so familiar, so intimate with the questions and concerns and the desires of the people who are considering your offer. And it makes those sales conversations a lot more effective and confident. And third, it allows you to master your delivery. So rather than being inadequate at delivering 5 different offers, you become really excellent at delivering this just one. And that can lead to better client results, more powerful testimonials, and really the kind of word of mouth that actually builds businesses. And finally, and this is crucial, the fewer offers you have, the more focused and effective your entire business ecosystem becomes. It's your content creation, your team training if you have a team, your back-end systems, even your own day-to-day energy and attention. Everything just gets more simplified and focused. Now, does this mean that you'll never have more than one offer? Not necessarily. So as your business matures, you might thoughtfully consider adding complementary offerings or next steps after that program. But to reach that first 6-figure year most efficiently, it's best to master that one signature offer. So here's your invitation. Look at your current business and be honest with yourself. Are you spreading yourself too thin across multiple offerings? And what would happen if you channeled all of that brilliant energy that you're exerting into creating, perfecting, selling just one signature offer that you are deeply proud of and that your clients truly love? I know this can feel scary at first, like you're kind of leaving money on the table, but I promise this is what will accelerate your path. So let's move on to step 3, which is pricing strategically. And this brings us into that conversation that makes many of us spiritual business owners squirm, and that is pricing. And this is where I often see the biggest disconnect between a woman's true value, her true expertise, and what she's actually bringing into her business at the end of the day. So when I was first building my six-figure business, I was chronically undercharging. I was offering deep transformational work at bargain prices because parts of me felt guilty about charging more. I felt like it wasn't spiritual and was worried that people would judge me for that. And that maybe, spiritual work should just be by donation. I felt a lot of inner conflict about that. And here's the truth that I wish I'd embraced sooner. Well, one, we live in a culture that does not support teachers of spirituality via donation. Like when I lived in Thailand, monks and such, monastics were supported by lay people through donation. We do not have that here in most of the world. And you don't need hundreds of clients to hit 10K months. In fact, trying to serve too many people at once is often what leads to getting exhausted and feeling resentful and feeling bitter. So let's do some simple math. If you want to reach 10K per month, you could serve 100 clients at $100 each, 10 clients at $1,000 each, one client at $10,000 each, or just 3 to 4 clients at $2,500 to $3,000 each. And this is personal. So which scenario feels more spacious for you? Which feels most feasible for you? And which allows you to deliver your best? And I often recommend considering more mid to high ticket offers versus the super low ticket ones, because those require a lot of high volume. And many times when we're starting out in our business, we just don't have that big of an audience. And also to consider a pricing structure that's accessible for your target client and the times that we're living in. And to make sure that your pricing actually calls in the quality of the client that you want. And when you are offering truly transformational work, the kind of work that changes lives and that creates lasting impact, your pricing really needs to reflect that value. So, doesn't that feel more possible than trying to attract hundreds of lower paying clients? For example, like if your signature offer is a 6-month, say it's a 6-month coaching package at $6,000, then you just need 2 clients per month to exceed that $10,000 a month. That's 2 perfect fit clients who are thrilled to pay you for the transformation you provide. And of course, we need to loop back to step 1 and acknowledge that mindset is huge here. And many parts of us may resist charging higher rates. And like I felt, they might worry about being judged and excluding people and ask, well, who do I think I am to charge that much? So those pricing fears are not random. They are connected to your deeper beliefs about worth, about money, about service, about what's possible for you. So I invite you to examine your current pricing with fresh eyes. Are you truly charging in alignment with the transformation that you provide, rather than the time that they take? Step 4 is to provide weekly original content. Consistently providing valuable free content, showing up every single week with this original content that speaks directly to your ideal client's challenges, dreams, questions, objections. And when I first started my business, my content creation was sporadic at best. I felt like I just do it when everything else got done. And spoiler alert, as you know, everything else is never done. And what I've learned is that creating this consistent, valuable content is not just a nice to have, it's an absolute essential. So think about it. Before someone's going to invest thousands of dollars to work with you, they need to know, like, and trust you. many of the women who go on to join me in one of my retreats or programs or one-on-one packages, they have been listening to this podcast. They have been getting to know me and my values and the depth of my work and what makes me different from other people out there through this podcast. So when people experience you through your content, they experience your approach, they witness your expertise, they feel a resonance with how you see the world. And this content is how you create that experience for them, even before they become a client. So here's what I recommend. Commit to showing up every week. Yes, every single week. And if you can't start with every week, at first, every other week. Providing valuable free content that showcases your unique perspective and expertise. And this could take many forms: email newsletters like my Sunday journal, podcast episodes like the one you're listening to now, YouTube videos, a Substack newsletter, a blog post. The medium matters less than that you are consistent and that you make it high quality and that you know your ideal client, because the key is having topics of your content directly address the common objections, fears, challenges your ideal clients face, particularly as they relate to your expertise and offer. And one of the reasons, the main reason why I'm even recording this podcast right now is because so many women come to me and they say that one of the biggest external goals that they have is to have those consistent 10K months. So whatever your area of expertise, your content should demonstrate both your understanding of your client's challenges and your unique approach to solving them. And here's a tip to increase the effectiveness of that content. Always link it back to your signature offer in some way. So you'll notice throughout this podcast, I am talking about my signature program, Her Self CEO. And this is the container through which I actually help you to experience this results. And this doesn't mean that every piece of content needs to be a hard sell, but there should be a clear connection between what you are teaching for free and the deeper work available in your paid programs, so that for the people that those are right for, they know the natural next right step. And they can start to see your content not as just some random helpful tips, but as a coherent pathway, like I said, kind of a conscious ecosystem that's leading them toward the transformation they desire, a transformation that they can experience more fully by working with you. And right now, I know what you might be thinking, because again, this is something that so many of the women that I work with say too. They say, but Sarah, creating weekly content sounds like a lot of work. Where do I even have time for that? I know it requires commitment, and there are ways to make this sustainable. So I'm a big fan of batching. So you can set aside a dedicated day or days each month to create multiple pieces at once. So today I have recorded and prepped 4 podcast episodes, and that feels really good to me. At first, you could start with just 2 to 3 hours each week to do that week's content. You can start small and you can build from there. Second, you want to repurpose intelligently. So for instance, this single podcast episode can be translated into my email newsletter and a couple of social media posts, and you can use AI to help you with this. Third, you can align your content with your own energy cycle. So if you feel more creative in the morning, you can protect that time for content creation rather than meetings or admin tasks. And that's what I like to do. And, one of the beautiful things about creating this consistent content is that it compounds over time, and each piece builds over the last, and you create a body of work that attracts your ideal clients while repelling those who aren't aligned with your approach. And as new people come into the ecosystem of your business, you can refer them back. If they have a question, you could say, well, I answered that in this podcast or this newsletter. And when you've been showing up consistently for months or years, sharing your wisdom and perspective and making that offer for your premium programs, it starts to feel more natural and welcomed and not pushy and like it's just coming out of nowhere. So I invite you to commit to weekly content creation as a non-negotiable part of your business rhythm. It's really one of the most important activities that you can do. And now let's move on to step 5. And something that might not feel particularly sexy or spiritual, but it is absolutely essential for sustaining six figures, and that is systems. So step number 5 is commit to scaling with systems. And I have learned, like I said, many times the hard way, that a business built on hustle and heroics alone will eventually collapse under its own weight. And here's what I know for certain: strong foundations equal sustainable growth. Now, what do I mean by systems? I am talking about repeatable, documented processes that ensure consistency, save time, and eventually allow parts of your business to run without your constant involvement. For example, you can create standard operating procedures, SOPs, in Google Docs. I love me some SOPs for recurring tasks in your business. Things like onboarding a new mentoring client, processing and creating and publishing podcast episodes, each step in a program launch, weekly social media workflow. And these documented processes, they serve several critical purposes. First, they save you from having to remember and recreate your processes every time. Second, they ensure consistency in your client experience. And third, this one is huge, they make it possible for someone else to handle these tasks when you are ready to delegate them. Now, beyond SOPs, I recommend implementing some sort of project management tool. I like to use Asana. We use the free version. It does everything that I need it to do. It helps to track deadlines, organize your tasks, manage all the moving parts of your business. Even when it's just you, I recommend getting set up in one of these project management systems. Other ones are ClickUp, Basecamp, and again, I really love Asana. Because when everything lives in your head, it creates this constant kind of cognitive load and anxiety about what might be falling through the cracks. And another game-changing system is leveraging technology. So using AI tools to help draft a podcast episode, setting up email automations to nurture clients, implementing social media scheduling tools like we use Metricool to batch and schedule your content in advance. And now I know something else that might be coming up for you because I hear this a lot. And you say, well, but Sarah, I am creative, I'm intuitive, I like to go with the flow and be inspired. And I totally get it. I am those things too. And the beautiful paradox that I have discovered is that well-designed systems, they actually create more space for creativity and for intuition. I consider myself a highly creative, highly intuitive person. And I can say from my firsthand experience that the systems I have in place in my business and in my life help to enhance that. So think of it this way, like your systems are the banks of a river, of like a feminine, flowing, abundant river. And those systems provide structure and direction, and they allow your creative energy to flow more powerfully rather than dispersing it in so many different directions. So again, one of the most powerful systems you can implement today is documentation. So start documenting every recurring task in your business in a way that would allow someone else to do it for you, either now or when you are ready to grow your team or hire your first VA. And this process, again, it serves you even if you're not ready to hire because it forces your clarity about your processes. It will reveal inefficiencies and it ultimately creates a valuable asset for your business in the long term. So I invite you to look at your current business operations. Where are you constantly reinventing the wheel? What processes could be documented and systemized? What technology could you leverage to create more ease? Remember, the goal isn't rigidity or corporate coldness. It's creating foundations that are solid enough to support the abundant and impactful business that you are building. So now we've arrived at step 6, and this one is really, really crucial. It is to invest in support. I cannot emphasize this one enough. We cannot get there alone. And I think one of the biggest myths in entrepreneurship is that self-made success story, that idea that visionary founders, they build their empires through sheer individual willpower and talent. And, I know that we are kind of an international audience here, but here in the US, there's really this glorification of kind of that lone hero that kind of constantly pulls him or herself up by their bootstraps. And I've just learned this truth over and over again. We really cannot get to the next level alone. And on that note, guess what the most important thing I did was that helped me to break through to six figures? I hired a higher end business coach. It was like, one of those investments that it was a big gulp, the biggest investment I'd ever made in my personal or professional life. And that coach, she helped me to create that one offer that really streamlined everything. And that took me to the next level. So you could also consider hiring a virtual assistant or a VA to help with admin, to help with client emails, tech tasks, and do it before you feel fully ready. And I really mean that. Do it before you feel fully ready, because I don't want you to get yourself into a precarious financial situation. If you are in mountains of debt, if you are struggling paying your rent or your mortgage, don't hire a VA. But if you have enough coming in and it feels a little bit tight, I'd say that you're ready. And the truth is, most of us never feel completely ready to make this investment. And I hired my first VA. It was 5 hours a month, and it was very early on in my journey. And I was really glad that I did that, because it started to help me to get used to working with someone else, getting organized enough to delegate to someone else. And gradually over time, I just increased that allowance of time. So second, like I mentioned earlier, is definitely invest in a coach or mentor to help you with that strategy, to help you with that step-by-step guidance on things that you don't fully know how to do yet, or maybe you're not doing that well yet. And that's okay. That's part of learning and evolving. It's like we always need coaches and mentors to show us the next steps. And this, while it is upfront money, it does save you from costly trial and error. Plus, that accountability keeps you in motion, gets you into action, and gets you doing things that you likely wouldn't be doing otherwise. I have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching and mentorship over my career, and it is the best investment I've ever made in my business and in myself. And it's something that I'm continuing to do right now and will continue to do in the future. And each time it allows me to leap forward rather than inch forward. And they help me to focus on doing the right work at the right time. And, the third type of support can come from your peers. It's, can connect with other business owners in a mastermind or kind of just a casual accountability relationship. There's something so powerful about not doing it alone and being in community with others who get you, who can celebrate your wins and can help support you when you're facing challenges or just navigating roadblocks. So in my business today, I have multiple layers of support. I have team members who can handle operations and tech and delivery. I have my own mentors and coaches who challenge my thinking and strategies. I have peer communities where I can both be supported and be supportive. And truly, I can say that this ecosystem of support, it's not a luxury. It's what makes success possible in the first place. So let's move on to step number 7, our final step. And this is to remember you're on the right path. So my friend, keep going. It is completely normal to feel afraid, overwhelmed, to doubt your progress. If you are not feeling those things, I would say you're not doing it. You're not on the path. But if you stay with it, if you get right support along the way, you will reach your destination. Like I said earlier, building a business, building a 6-figure business or beyond is not easy. And anyone who tells you it is lying. But with these steps, it can be more easeful, and you can do it in a way that is aligned with your deepest values. And this blueprint is not just a theory. It is distilled from my own journey, including the detours, including the meltdowns that I truly want to help you avoid. And it comes from guiding hundreds of women to do this very thing. So I know that this path does not have to cost you your sanity. It does not have to cost you your health. It does not have to cost you enjoying your life. In fact, when you follow these steps in this way, the journey itself can truly become rewarding. And I often say, entrepreneurship, building a business is the greatest path to personal growth that I have ever come across. And I am kind of a personal growth junkie. I have been for almost 30 years. And this is it. This is the path. So before we wrap up, let's just recap the 7 essential steps to creating your 6-figure year. Step 1, uplevel your mindset. Step 2, simplify your offer suite. Step 3, price strategically. Step 4, provide weekly original content. Step 5, commit to scaling with systems. Step 6, invest in support. Step 7, remember you're on the right path. And before we part ways today, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey through the blueprint I wish that I'd had back in 2012 when I was working toward my first 6-figure year. And these 7 steps truly are the foundation for creating a profitable business aligned with your deepest self. And I'm curious, let me know, which of these 7 steps resonated the most with you? Which one feels like your next right move to focus on to help you get to those 10K months? And I'd love to hear from you about this. I am serious. You can direct message me on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn if you're on social media. I'm at Sarah Avant Stover. Let me know what you're focusing on right now. Which step is it? I personally read every message and I will reply. And I am genuinely interested in where you are in your journey. And if you are feeling called to go deeper with this work, if you're ready for a high-touch, rooted support in community to implement this blueprint with expert guidance, I invite you to join the waitlist for my brand new evolved program, Herself CEO. It's a 20-week conscious business immersion and internal family systems leadership circle for heart-centered coaches, therapists, creatives, healing professionals, ready to live and lead from within. Early registration opens in July for our fall cohort, and you can join the waitlist to be the first to know when doors open at sarahavaughtstover.com/CEO. That's sarahavaughtstover.com/CEO. Remember, you are closer than you think. You already have the core things that you need inside of you. And yes, I truly believe in you. I believe in your gifts. I believe in your vision. I believe in your capacity to create success on your own terms. So until next time, my friend, keep taking those aligned steps and keep trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, change doesn't come from listening alone. I invite you to commit to taking one small or large courageous action after today's conversation. One step you can take, if you haven't already, is to sign up for my Sunday journal. It's a weekly newsletter filled with inspiration and reflections about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential to help you become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. You can subscribe at programs-sarahavaughtstover.com/journal. And if you found this podcast valuable, please share it with the women in your world. Also, I'd be very grateful if you'd leave a review. It helps others find resources like this, and I'd love to hear what's coming alive for you after listening today. Above all, keep going, and never forget the unique offerings you and your true self bring to the world. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support.